I am Bruce Jun Fan Lee. Some of you know me as the man who hit like thunder and moved like wind. But if you listen closely, you'll hear something softer under the noise. A question. What can a human become when he refuses to be the shape of his container? If you give me your attention, I'll take you from a cradle in America to crowded streets in Hong Kong, from a philosophy classroom in Seattle to a film set in Hong Kong, from the silence of injury to a roar that has not gone quiet in half a century. I was born in San Francisco in 1940, while my father, an opera actor, was touring America. The calendar called me American. The world would not always agree. When we returned to Hong Kong, the city taught me rhythm, fairy horns, wet markets, quick hands, and quicker stories. I was a child actor before I could spell career, hitting my marks on black and white sets, learning how cameras breathe and how an audience leans in when truth visits, even in fiction. I also learned the city's rougher curriculum. Fists are teachers when society runs late. I fought. Too much if you asked my mother, not enough if you asked the boy who hated being cornered. Fighting gives you lies if you only count victories. I wanted a different thing, understanding. The rumors led me to Wing Chun and to Ip Man, a teacher who carried stillness like a sword. He showed me a narrow alley of technique that opened into a great field of timing, structure, relaxation, and economy. You don't push a door, you find the hinge. You don't lock your muscles, you unlock the path. Wing Chun gave me a skeleton for my curiosity. I trained until the air tasted like metal and the floor remembered my steps. But even gratitude has to keep walking. I was never content to be the best inside a style. I wanted to become fluent in combat, which respects truth more than it respects banners. I was also still an actor, a kid who could hit his mark and then go hit a bag. It made sense to me that you could be both. Why should art and combat live in separate rooms when they are cousins with the same blood? Presence. Trouble followed anyway. Hong Kong streets are generous teachers and terrible hosts. My parents loved me enough to be strict. We sailed back to America, a second birth. I carried a suitcase, a body in motion, and a vow. I would make my own style by removing what I did not need. In Seattle, I worked in restaurants and slept little. I enrolled in philosophy because I wanted to test the edges of my thinking. Western logic met Eastern clarity on my desk at midnight. Lao Tzu said water is strong because it yields. Krishnamurti spoke of truth as a pathless land. Emerson insisted on self-reliance. I underlined the margins until the margins looked like the main text. I opened a small school, not a temple, not a museum, a laboratory. Students arrived, workers off shifts, kids with shy confidence, women who had been told to be small, men who had been told to be loud. I trained them all as people. I named the method Jun Fan Gung Fu because honesty starts with your own name. It wasn't yet Jeet Kune Do, it was a bridge to it. A controversy found me. I taught anyone who came with sincere effort. Asian, white, black, anyone. Some traditionalists protested. They wanted fences around knowledge. I offered a fight to settle it the old way, fast, ugly, decisive. I won, and the room filled with a sound I did not expect, my own breathing, ragged and angry. I had fought their rules to defend my principle and then trapped myself in the same cage. That evening, on the walk home, I promised my legs, we are going to learn to move like truth, not like tradition. I studied boxing, fencing footwork, wrestling, the structure of movement, the physics of punches, and the psychology of timing. I built drills that shaved away romance and left function. I used focus myths before most people in America knew the name, creating combinations that taught the body to flow, not memorize. I loved the one-inch punch, not for magic, but for mechanics, structure, hip, floor, alignment, intent. I met Linda. She brought me calm. We built a family. I carried my son, Brandon, like a vow, and my daughter, Shannon, like a bright morning. Love is a discipline. It reminds you that glory is expensive, and the currency is time you do not get back. The Green Hornet called. I played Cato, a supporting role that swelled until it crowded the frame. America loved the movement, but not always the man. Casting rooms used my face for exotic, my body for stunts, and my voice only when it didn't scare their ideas. They would ask me to play criminals, servants who bowed with enthusiasm, but without self. I decided to stop saying yes to decorating someone else's myth. Hollywood's closed doors hurt, so I trained harder. In my garage, I built a gym that became a church of sweat. Free weights, isometrics, heavy bag, jump rope, elastic bands. I wrote notes that later became the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, pages about interception, non-telegraphic motion, and the power of simple directness. When your kick is honest, it arrives before your opponent's thought. I believed in simplicity, the way a swordsman believes in a sharp blade. A simple punch with perfect timing is complex enough for any man standing where he shouldn't. I did not despise tradition. I despised unquestioned tradition. My style was not a style. It was freedom wearing gloves.
If America would not let me lead, Hong Kong would. When I returned, I found Golden Harvest ready to gamble. We made The Big Boss. The fight scenes were not dances, they were sentences, subject, verb, period. The audience understood. We made Fist of Fury, and I let rage be articulate for once. A crowd wanted me to break a sign that said, "No dogs or Chinese allowed." I broke the meaning instead. Way of the Dragon let me write, direct, star, and orchestrate the camera around truthful impact. Rome felt like a stage, the corridor fights felt like essays, and the clash with Chuck Norris in the Colosseum became a thesis about adaptation. Hair on the floor, sweat on stone, respect at the end. I was not trying to prove that I was the strongest man alive. I was trying to show that clarity is stronger than decorations. On set, I timed attacks like music, beat, silence, beat, beat. I learned to let the camera see the line of force and the story inside a feint. Editors learned to wait for the punch, to honor the rhythm rather than cut for canic. When impact is honest, you don't need to hide it, you frame it. Directors asked how to film a kick. I said, don't betray it. Keep the lens where the geometry can tell the truth. Let bodies speak. Cinema is a language if you stop trying to shout. Enter the Dragon came next, a bridge between Hong Kong and Hollywood. I negotiated creative control because control is responsibility in disguise. I wanted my character to be a man, not a symbol, flawed, focused, alive. We shot in heat that argued with patience. I choreographed fights like arguments with physics. What happens when speed meets structure, when intent meets hesitation? People remember the mirrors. I remember the philosophy. If you fight your reflection, you lose to an idea of yourself. Break the illusion and strike the truth. The cracked glass is not violence, it's clarity. Some called me arrogant. They were confusing certainty with contempt. I respected any fighter who respected the work. I rejected anything that asked me to pretend a lie was tradition. If that is arrogance, then I advise it gently to anyone drowning in other people's plans. Injury is a teacher with sharp manners. I injured my back while training. Pain arrived like unwanted company and stayed uninvited. Doctors gave me limits. I took their advice and studied it until the parts that were fear left the room. I learned to move again, to lift again, to stretch like a promise. I wrote more during those months than I had in years, pages that tried to capture what I had been practicing. Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. Interception is not about speed alone. It is about timing, distance, reading. If you truly see, you can hit a man before he finishes choosing his punch. JKD was not a collection of techniques. It was a lens. What works under pressure stays. What fails leaves. Each body is a laboratory. Each truth is provisional until tested again. People wanted a neat curriculum, level 1, level 2, certificates, badges. I smiled and gave them something messier but more lasting. Principles, simplicity, directness, freedom from form, the courage to discard your yesterday. A kick that begins honestly, ends fast. During recovery, I held my children and learned that patience is not the absence of urgency. It is the awareness that urgency must breathe. I returned to work slower in some ways and sharper in others. I could see an opening in a face the way a poet can see a stanza hiding in a street. Fame grew. Crowds asked for autographs. I asked for space. My weight fluctuated, my days shortened, my nights filled with plans. I felt time thinning like a bridge stretched to its last plank. So I wrote faster, filmed faster, loved harder. Not because I feared death, because life had sent notice, do your exact work while you have hands. People quote me often, "Be water, my friend." It is not a slogan, it is engineering. Water conforms to the container without surrendering its nature. It is soft and relentless. It erodes stone not by outrage, but by insistence. In a fight, be the solution to the specific problem presented, no fixed form, only purpose. In life, keep flow, keep clarity, keep pressure only where needed. Water doesn't fear shape, it uses it. Be water means don't marry your favorite technique, marry the moment. Don't add for impressiveness, subtract for speed. Don't imitate, absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. Don't posture, express. If you understand water, you understand freedom with responsibility. A river flows downhill because it respects gravity. That respect gives it power. In combat, you respect distance and timing. In art, you respect audience and story. In life, you respect truth and love. People also use my 1-inch punch as a party trick. Know this, performance is the ghost, mechanics are the house. Structure stacked over ground contact, hip rotation compressed into inches, relaxation until the last moment, then sudden whip, impact that begins at the floor and arrives through the fist like a sentence with one verb. There is no magic in my hand. The magic is in alignment and awareness you can learn. I trained with weapons not to look dangerous, but to understand distance. Nunchaku taught me rhythm, angles, the logic of arcs. I ignored people who wanted me to be a poster. If a drill did not make me better, it didn't make the cut. My schools in Seattle, Oakland, Los Angeles were not franchises, they were conversations. I taught actors, law students, athletes, carpenters, mothers, sons. The only fees that mattered were attention and effort. Some came for defense, some for confidence, some for curiosity. They all left with something I hoped would outlast pain: agency. I did not invent the desire to be free. I merely handed it a mirror and said, "Look, you are allowed."
Enter the Dragon was a roar I did not get to hear live for long. My death arrived quickly, and speculation has become its own genre. Let the living discuss it. I will not. My family grieved. Fans built altars all over the world, on dorm walls, in garages, in hearts that felt smaller until they found a way to move again. My son Brandon would later write his own brave chapter. His passing reopened wounds we had just learned to close gently. If you speak my name, speak theirs too. Linda, Brandon, Shannon, because a name without the names it loves is an address without a house. What remains? Not myth, method. Not legend, lessons. Keep what works, discard what doesn't, daily. Train for aliveness, resistance, timing, feedback, because drills without chaos are manners, not readiness. Build tools, footwork, structure, breath. Make your art an honest expression of yourself. Refuse to be categorized by anyone who loves boxes more than living beings. People ask what I think of MMA, of modern training, of the way fighters now cross-train and measure results with cameras and data. I smile. The form evolves, the principles survive. Interception, economy, directness, flow. If you can stop his attack at the idea level, through distance, angle, pressure, your hands did philosophy faster than your mind could. People ask what I think of representation, of barriers that dressed like policies and made people small in rooms with big budgets. I think doors are tools that should open. When they don't, you learn carpentry or you remove walls, but you never agree to be small. Be water means this too. Be patient enough to erode what is unjust. Be humble enough to take the shape of necessary work. Be strong enough to carve a canyon. If my image is a poster, let the poster be a map. Follow it to the gym, or the notebook, or the mirror. The mirror is important. It tells the truth without punishment. It shows you your posture and your pretense. Fix both. What to keep? Simplicity is speed. In combat and in life, remove what is not serving function. Presence beats performance. Don't act tough. Be available to the moment. Interception over reaction. Meet problems as they start, not when they have momentum. Aliveness. Train with enough chaos that your body learns reality, not choreography. Freedom with taste. Be formless like water, but do not be mud. Flow with clarity. Love and work. If your art cost your family the version of you they deserve, redesign the schedule. Write it down. Thoughts harden into principles when ink slows them enough to measure. Teach. The fastest way to learn is to help someone else move well. If you remember me, don't remember only the flying kick or the scarlet gloves. Remember a man at a desk in the middle of the night writing. I shall not philosophize at the expense of action, nor act at the expense of thought. I shall do both. Remember a teacher telling a student to relax his shoulders and look at the target, not at his fear. Remember water, soft, relentless, honest. I am Bruce Lee. They said I was too small, too foreign, too fast for the camera, too loud for the casting room, too philosophical for the fight world, too combative for the academy. Good. 2 is a ruler handed to you by people who don't know your measurements. Be water, my friend. Then be the river that others can drink from and cross.